Hey guys, so this is the fourth strategy session that we're doing here, and we're still looking at the customer interface. Now we're moving on to the channels and the customer relationship. So our first questions here, again using Apple's business model canvas, is are our channels very efficient or are they inefficient? So so here we're asking, okay, are our channels, apple.com, is it efficient at getting new customers? Is it efficient at getting sales? And similar Apple stores, are they efficient? Which of these channels are the most efficient? And just to remind you about the difference between efficiency and effectiveness, being efficient, being effective is about doing the right thing, whilst being efficient is about doing things right. So here, does apple.com do things right in order to make sales? Are Apple stores good at making sales? Are third-party retailers good at making sales? So in the case of these, we can say, okay, let's have a look at, okay, sales per square foot, which I think is a standard measure of retail success. I don't know what Apple's is, but I know that Gap is something like $640 per square foot, and something like the yoga pants retail company Lululemon is something like almost $3,000 of revenue per square foot. And that is a clear example of Lululemon being far more efficient at using its retail space to deliver that its value to its customers. So looking at your channels, how efficient are you at using them? And a great way of going out and benchmark is to go out and benchmark them and compare yourselves to other people. So for example, if you're doing email marketing, are you getting 25% open rate? Are you getting 3 or 4% click-through rate? That's about standard. Marketing Sherpa each year does a report, and it says, okay, this is what the standard is, and you're then able to say, okay, totally apart from the sales, how well am I doing in comparison to other people using fairly standard benchmarks? And that's a good way to go, and it gets you out of your own little bubble a little bit as well, and quite often is a little bit shocking when you think I've been doing really well, and then you realize how much better you could actually be doing if you brought yourself up to industry standard or even exceeded it. Then are our channels very effective? And often this is the first test of an entrepreneur. When you go out, when you're looking at all your different possible traction channels that you want to try and address, which channels are the most effective for reaching my market? Should I go out and be using exhibiting at an exhibition or a trade show or a conference, or should I be, or is SEO going to be the most effective for me? And now after, 2 or 3 years of running your business, you know what is good, what's working. Are they the most effective? They certainly were good enough to get you traction initially, but have you just found a local maxima that is a little hill separated from a higher hill somewhere else? Now, with more customers, more money, can you go out and start accessing more effective channels? So have you now got sufficient sales that you could actually hire a sales development rep to be going out and be doing sales full time and start a sales process if your sales are high enough? Or is it now worth investing in going and talking at exhibitions or conferences? Or is it worth building your own warehouse now that you've reached a sufficient level of scale? are the more effective channels that you can be using now that you didn't before. And that is very much the focus of this argument. You can also benchmark the different channels that you are using and say which are the most effective. Look at the different ROIs that you're getting at each, and not only from the amount of investment that you're putting in, but also for the complexity and the hassle of maintaining. Some things are very easy to do. Google AdWords is loved by many because the process is relatively quick and simple. Design an ad, pay Google, get traffic, convert. Whereas other things going out in direct sales can take 5 to 6 months to get a decent process up and running, so that you're knowing it's actually starting to really work. So is the channel reach strong amongst customers? Is the channel reach weak among prospects? So reach is all about how far your brand goes out, how many people are seeing what you've got to say. So on the one hand, are your customers seeing everything that you're putting out, and you've got an incredibly loyal fan base? At the other hand, are all your prospects out there not seeing anything that you're putting out at all? Okay, and this isn't really a binary. It should really be a more of an axis like this, with weak reach, strong and weak reach on the x-axis, and customers and prospects, and just to map out where your most effective reach is. If you've got low churn, then maybe you want to be focusing on making sure that all your customers are seeing everything that you're putting out, to keep them engaged, to keep them highly retained. On the other hand, if you haven't got enough customer numbers, then maybe you want to be focusing your reach efforts on new prospects rather than on your existing customers. Where should your reach be focused? And that is the question that you should be asking here. Like all these things, yeah, there is an ideal world. We do everything. Where is more important to you right now? Where, if you change it, is it going to have the biggest impact? That is the question. It's not absolute best, it's relative best. Okay, customers can easily see our channels. Customers totally fail to notice our channels. So if you're advertising on YouTube, are you easy to find it on YouTube search? Have you got your SEO sorted out? Does Google pop your videos up on a frequent basis? Have you got enough out there to be having a reasonable bite at the pie every time the pie is served up in a new diner? This is important, because if prospects just don't notice your channels, you've got a big problem. And then it may be, again, come back to the way, are you being effective or are you being efficient in the way that you're delivering? What have you got to change? Is it a problem with your value proposition that they're not noticing your channels? Is it a problem of the choice of channels? Is it a problem that you're targeting the wrong customer segment, or are you just doing it badly? You may be getting it right now, in which case we do the reverse. Okay, can I get people to notice more of what I'm doing by improving or tweaking my value proposition? Are there any channels that I could be using that I'm not at the moment that would increase that engagement with my target segment? Yeah, so am I hitting my target segment in all the channels that they're using? Or, like most people, am I just hitting him with the channels that I feel comfortable using, which may not be a total match or overlap with what they like to use? Are my channels strongly integrated, or are my channels poorly integrated? So this is, to a certain extent, a little bit more technical. So, for example, if I go to my local Tesco's, which is a supermarket, I rarely see anything in store that reminds me that I could also buy online and have it delivered to me. That's a great example of poor channel integration by a big brand. On the other hand, a brand, say Gary Vaynerchuk, he's very tightly integrated, because if you find him on Vine, that's dead now. If you find him on Snapchat or Musical.ly, that will then direct you to him on YouTube, which directs you to his book, which directs you to his website, which directs you to Facebook, and so you have him cursing, shouting, telling you everything that you need to know from so many different directions at once. Is your brand giving your customers that kind of social surround sound or channel surround sound that they actually need? And if you do that, is it worth the effort? Do you need to provide that surround sound effect to actually win? Or can you just stay in mono or stereo or even Dolby to get the right impact? And again, is a trade-off. What do you need to do? How many channels should you be using? Where do you find the maximum impact effect? And again, like most things, it is this normal distribution. It may be skewed to one way or the other. It may be asymmetrical. Try and figure out where you need to be there. Right. And do your channels provide an economy of scope? So when we're looking at economies of scope, basically the idea of an economy of scope is normally if we do the Apple's website and that costs $1 million, and we do the Apple Million Stores and that costs $1 million, and then the third-party retailers cost $1 million, the whole thing costs $3 million. But if you're getting economies of scope, it's like, okay, I've done that cost me $1 million, but because I've done a lot of the branding and the content design, that's only going to cost me $700,000. And then because I've done, I know I've then designed what a store should look like and how it should be done, and all the layout, etc. So I can then sell that model onto retailers, and that's going to only cost me $100,000. And so suddenly I'm getting 3 channels for $1.8 million rather than the $3 million. And that's giving me an economy of scope, because I'm doing multiple things that together they cost less than they do separately. And this is different to economies of scale, because they're different things that work together synergistically rather than doing the same thing lots and lots of times, and I get a lot better at it. And the classic example of economies of scope, but certainly for smaller businesses, is when you're doing the content marketing and you're saying, okay, how can I repurpose my content from one channel to the next? So for example, if you've got a blog post, the simplest level of repurposing content, you take the blog post, you post it to LinkedIn, you post it on Medium, you post it somewhere else. Okay, that gives you a certain amount of benefit. But then what happens if you chop up the blog post and you take the components and you mix and match it with another blog post and you put that into an infographic? You turn sentences from the blog post into tweets. You turn paragraphs from the blog post into Facebook articles. There, you're getting far more economies of scope, and you're getting a lot more benefit than simply putting the blog post up and then doing a Facebook article and then doing something else. Where can you be finding more economies of scope than you are now? And obviously, the value of this question, if you've got lots and lots of channels, then there's more opportunities for economies of scope. And again, not just for what here we've just got one market segment, but what can you take from one market segment and apply to a different market segment with a little bit of window dressing. I had one customer who had written 5 books, and they were all branded, targeted totally differently, but the content inside each book was 90% the same. What he'd done is he chunked it up, reordered it, restructured it, retitled it, repackaged it as 5 separate books for 5 very different audiences. Okay, moving now on to the customer relationships. You have strong customer relationships or weak ones. A lot of mass market B2C relationships are fairly weak. That is why brand is so important. When have you ever met anybody from Google or Apple? When have you spoken to a real life person? It happens very, very rarely. So the actual relationships are quite weak. If you go into a bespoke suit manufacturer like, say, Jutes and Hawk, your salesman, I'm not sure if it's called a salesman, your tailor soon has a very detailed knowledge of you, because he knows your body in a better way really than you do, how it shapes, how it fits, how it should move, and he understands why your body is like that and how your body is likely to change over the lifetime of the suit. That's a very deep, strong and intimate customer relationship, and that makes it very easy for him to then sell you a new suit or a different type of suit in 2 or 3 years' time. So again, the quality of the customer relationship is entirely dependent on your business model. You can have very weak customer relationships when you're doing a mass market product, when you have a monopoly position in a competitive market in high margin, high ticket items. A very strong personal relationship is important. At the one end of manufacturing, aircraft salesmen will spend millions of dollars in building relationships with their customers in the airlines. At the other end of manufacturing, Chinese manufacturers manufacturing, yes, some of my daughter's plastic widgets on the desk, will spend absolutely nothing on a customer relationship, because they're competing on price and quality. So again, there is a line, there's a trade-off here. Where do you want to be on that line? Where are your customers on that customer relationship line? and this is something. So for example, many of the banks, if you have a platinum or a black card at many of the banks, they will have a concierge service, and you ring them up and say, I would like tickets to the opera, or I would like to do something or whatever, and somebody will go out and do that for you. And what fundamentally is that? How is that any different to Google search? It's not. But it's a service where they've decided, okay, we are offering this service with a very high level of customer relationship, and Google is saying we're offering that level of service with 0 customer relationship. There is a continuum, and it very much depends on the business model. Google's business model demands no engagement, because otherwise the cost economies do not work. When you've got somebody who's earning $1 million a year, paying somebody $10 or $20 an hour to find him an opera ticket, so that you're able to make $30,000 or $40,000 in fees from them during the year, makes a lot of sense. Relationship quality correctly matches the customer services segments, or relationship quality doesn't match your customer segment. So I worked with one customer a while back, and she was selling, I think, €100 service to customers. And she was then spending 1 to 2 hours doing research and providing very high quality customer service to her key segments. And this basically was not sustainable because the cost of the customer relationship was far higher than the customer segment was prepared to pay for the service. Of course, she was able to get customers, and they were always incredibly happy with her, but there was a very strong mismatch. And so one of the key challenges there was, okay, how do you decrease the strength of the customer relationship without significantly harming the revenue stream? Or how could we increase the value of the revenue stream from that customer in order to support the customer relationship? Because she did not want to change the customer relationship, because for her that was the most satisfying part of the job. However, it did mean that the business as it stood was impossible to scale. It was only going to remain a small lifestyle business, and that was a big problem. Relationships bind customers through high switching costs or customer switching costs alike. Okay, you go to a petrol station. Yesterday, I went to a Shell petrol station. Last week, I went to Petron. The week before, I went to Petronas. Did I really care about the brand? No. The switching cost was trivial. I just drove off the street at a slightly different place and time. On the other hand, when I was a customer at Salesforce, not only was I locked in for a 2-year contract at the time, but also I'd built a totally custom buying process in Salesforce. The data was all in effectively a proprietary database that I'd built. And so how do I get that out? How do I move it in? It was just too difficult to think about, too difficult to work through. So we've been now Salesforce for 12 years because the switching costs are too high. Many Oracle, SAP have very, very similar things. Other Facebook, again, has high switching costs, though there aren't obvious competitors there. Other companies, other SaaS providers make it very easy to exit, to access your data and take it out of the system. And they see that that is a way of handling objections rather than as a trap. So if you say to people, okay, it's easy to get out, people are more likely to jump in. You give them a great customer experience, so there is no need for them to jump out. So they never test how easy it is to exit. And finally, our brand is strong, our brand is weak. This is as much a benchmarking exercise, but do you need a strong brand? We now live in a very brand-centric world, and the presumption is, yes, you do need a strong brand to succeed. But the fact is, there are millions and millions and millions of companies out there that do well without a strong brand. Yes, a brand costs money, it costs time, it costs effort to build. And there are two ways of building your brand. You can build it organically, which is the way that traditionally happened. You create an amazing product, a remarkable product, a purple cow in Seth Godin's term, and then your brand is created through word of mouth. Or you can create a brand artificially through clever marketing, through understanding pain points, through influencing, from what's the slightly negative word, where you it's gone, I'm really sorry about this, but where you are able to get people and change their minds without them really wanting to be changed. And that sort of marketing it works, it's expensive, it's sparkly, it's shiny. Where do you want to go on building your brand? I was talking to a friend the other day, and a lot of his brand is built on very strong personal relationship with his suppliers and his customers. And because he's got that very strong relationship, they like him, they like his manufacturing company, they like the fact that he always delivers. Yeah, his website looks shockingly bad, it's not very good, it's not, on the face of it, he hasn't got a strong brand. But the other day, he stopped a company like Walmart coming in and taking his supplier base away from him. And so he actually has an incredibly strong brand because it keeps his business going, it keeps it moving forward. And he has spent the money and the time and the attention where it is important for his business rather than doing what everybody else is doing. And so what is important here is, how do you make your brand remarkable? What is the best way of doing that? What is the most effective way of getting it done? Again, sorry, construction across the road. This is something where, okay, you can choose to go for a weak brand, you can choose to go for a strong brand. What is important? How does it fit your business model? And so as we come to the end of these 4 sessions now on looking at your business model and looking at ways to change it, what I hope I've done is, I hope I've asked some provocative questions. I've got you looking at what you've been doing, the ways that you've been providing your value proposition, and to start opening your mind to say, okay, what can I do differently? How can I change what I can do? And if I change what I do, will it make me more effective? Will it give me some sort of advantage over my competitors? Will it enable me to respond better to threats in the market or to exploit new opportunities? Will it give me a better framework for growth over the next 1, 2, 3, or 5 years? This is where we have been going through on these sessions. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope to talk to you again one day. Do give me a call, reach out and ask me anything that you want. Thank you.